Welcome to another episode of Inner Peace, Better Health. I'm your host, Eric, and today we have a truly enlightening guest with us, Sasha Shine Bright. Sasha is an astrologer and numerologist with over 7 years of experience. Her journey into the spiritual path began during a challenging time in her life, leading her to seek deeper meaning and ultimately find clarity and purpose through astrology and numerology. Sasha is passionate about helping others align with their true selves and navigate their karmic paths with confidence and inspiration. So, hi Sasha, it's wonderful to have you here.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm very excited because I think we could have a very insightful conversation.
Yeah, and today we are diving into a very fascinating topic, the influence of the moon on our minds and how we can harmonize this energy for inner peace. So, let's get started with some thought provoking questions.
hmm So, can we have the conversation both ways? So we can
Yeah,
engage
yeah.
you as well.
Sure. I'll be doing that. Nothing to be worried about.
So, what do you know about moon? Like, do you know anything about moon? What first comes to mind?
Moon, whatever comes to mind. The first thing that comes to mind when I say moon is definitely a moon. I don't know what to say.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to make you confused, but sometimes maybe the moon phases, for example. Hmm?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think so in Indian context, so by the way, I'm from India. In Indian context, moon is something that holds a very religious significance. So, yeah, and honestly, I'm really excited to learn more about it as I'm not much aware about the influence of moon on our emotional state. And that's what I wanted to ask you as the foremost question is, can you explain how the moon influences our emotional state and mental well-being?
Absolutely. So I thought that maybe
Perfect.
sometimes people are more familiar with moon, like the
Uh-huh.
Vedic astrology. So
Uh-huh.
Indian one, yeah.
Yeah.
And if we think about moon, even without talking about astrology, usually first thing comes to mind is that it changes all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone is like, oh, today's full moon or today's new moon, and it's like
Yeah.
always some movement. So, like, yeah, moon has strong influence on our mind and our emotions. Yeah, in
Mhm.
astrology, moon is kind of responsible for these parts of our lives. And
Yeah.
because it's always changing, our thoughts and our emotions and our mood, it also changes. And actually, if we start tracking the phases of moon and our mood, and we start comparing those things, we actually see that there is a very certain pattern in there. And by that, we already can predict like what's going to be happening in the next days and like how I can deal with my mood, how I can get prepared to feel better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
do you want me to uncover a little bit this full moon and new moon topics or
Sure. So I was also wondering how can we become more aware of these lunar influences in our daily lives? So sure, please go ahead.
so yeah, moon, it influences strongly how we feel. And some people they have even like higher sensitivity.
Yeah.
Usually, by the way, those who were born on the 2nd, 11th, 20th, and 29th of any month. This
Yeah.
is, I'm bringing a little bit of numerology. So,
Yeah.
this number two is related to moon energy, and these people are usually more sensitive to such events.
Mm.
But the rest could be also very prone to these changes.
Mm.
So, let's talk about full moon. Full moon is when moon has a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It's like supercharged and it gives all this energy to us. And what happens? We could feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like too much happening within. that
Mm.
sometimes it's really hard to find this peace. And it could come in forms of like irritation, or sometimes, when it's too much, it comes in form of anxiety. But anyway, there is this like strong disturbance within, and yeah, could lead to insomnia, for example. So this is full moon. And
Yeah.
yeah, at these days, it's like very, very recommended to avoid anything important, like try to keep these days calm, not to consume too much information, like nothing extra to
Yeah.
stimulate our mind. Quite opposite, to stay like in this meditative state.
Yeah.
Avoid too much of, I don't know, news or like communication, because it all brings disturbance. So the protective way is to actually try to calm ourselves. But it's also cool to meditate by just sitting and looking at this full moon.
Yeah.
This is actually a very favorable activity.
Mm. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm familiar with it. Wow. It's really intriguing to think about how celestial bodies can impact our emotions. Like I personally I was not aware that it has such a strong influence on my emotional state. Wow. It's really amazing. And just becoming more aware of these influences could be a game changer for many, many, many of us. So wow, thank you, Sasha, for that. And what are some common signs that the moon's energy is affecting us negatively? Wow, this is interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I asked you, what are some common signs that the moon's energy is affecting us negatively?
Yeah. So it's very obvious when we feel unhappy, when we
Mm.
feel that our mood goes down. And this is,
Yeah.
I'm already talking about, the position in the chart, and when moon is afflicted. Afflicted means somehow damaged. Yeah, we're not diving
Yeah.
deeper into details, but when moon is damaged, such people, they struggle finding happiness and inner peace. They
Yeah.
always feel that something is missing. And as
Mm.
well, as I said, it brings this restless mind. So when mind keeps going and going and going, sometimes people could get spiraling on some topic, and they could, like chew this topic for days, weeks, and sometimes years, and there is no peace in there. Like, yeah, it brings, as I was saying, very similar to this full moon, it brings anxiety, it brings this irritation, it brings this dissatisfaction when we feel that, like, nah, it's not happening. When there is a very strong affliction, then it actually turns into depression and in even like stronger mental illnesses, because, like, yeah, this is what moon is responsible for our mind.
Mm. Wow.
I kind of could give a hook for the next questions, even though you have those prepared, and I'm super happy to work with your script.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
as an
yeah.
idea, because by changing our thinking way or changing our reaction way, this is how we can actually take control over our mind and our life. But yeah,
Wow.
please ask your questions that were prepared.
No, 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 no. Because what truly happens most of the time is that I have the questions prepared, but most of the times when I'm just carried away by the conversation, it's so interesting. I personally ask questions, and it really gets interesting. So don't worry about the script or anything like that. Just having a conversation and nothing to be worried about. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I did not know that moon is responsible for your mind, and it's really interesting. It's fascinating to consider even like how different phases of the moon might affect us differently. Oh, it's really interesting. And even understanding these patterns could help us better manage our emotional health. Wow. So, how can we harmonize our energy with the moon to achieve a more peaceful mind?
And this is the great one. So you see, how our lifestyle is formed. So first
Yeah.
comes the thought, the way we are thinking.
Yeah.
And the way we are thinking, it creates our reactions.
Yeah.
Our reactions, they stimulate our actions. Our
Yeah.
actions, if we repeat them again and again and again, they turn
Yeah.
into habits. And
Yeah.
our habits, they create our lifestyle.
Mm.
So, for example, at the end, yeah, in the present moment, we have a situation with this restless mind with
Mm.
strong tendency to anxiety or to be mm, dissatisfied or unhappy with life. And to make a change, where should
Yeah.
we start? This is already a question for you.
Okay, 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 okay. Please go on. I'm like learning from you. Please, please.
So we start from the way we think. Yeah. At the
Yeah,
start
yeah, yeah.
of the moon, it's responsible for our mind, the way we
Fine.
think. If we want
Okay.
to harmonize moon, if we want
Hmm.
to deal with our well-being, yeah, with our happiness, then we
Yeah.
start from the way we think.
Yes.
And we really need to change our thoughts because yeah, we can think positively, we can think negatively. From negative
Definitely.
thoughts, we get into negative scenarios, and we could
Yes.
easily lead ourselves to depression, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with positive way of thinking, we can really drag ourselves from these negative moods.
Mm.
And the way we're thinking, it's very strongly dependent on what kind of energies, let's say so for now, we
Mm-hmm.
engage on a daily basis. So, for example, if we engage with some negative news, if we're like scrolling these news publics and their news are working this way, they always bring something bad.
Yeah.
Like, oh, economy is going bad. There's gonna be crisis. Oh my God, what I'm gonna do? Prices are getting high, and like yeah, and
Yeah.
we start thinking about it, and what happens? Yeah, reaction. We start feeling this heartbeat is getting faster. Yeah, yeah. We start sweating, and
Yeah.
and it's like yeah, and we're like, oh my God, like this is already anxiety kicks in. And
Yeah.
we live in this fear when we feel that like, oh my God, what to do? What to do? I need to do something. I need to protect myself, and it's a life of desperation.
Yeah.
But when we engage with something beautiful, for example, we read some spiritual books or holy books, and here
Yeah.
I don't want to point out to anything specific because for everyone it could be different, and despite differences in like the choices of spiritual books or like religious books or anything, it could be different things, but those that kind of knowledge that brings hope, that brings inspiration, that brings us
Yeah.
faith, when we
Mm.
engage with this kind of knowledge and information on a daily basis, this
Yeah.
gives us this boost that like okay this is not the end.
Yeah.
It happened before, people survived, and I will survive too. And
Mm.
instead of thinking how bad it's going to be, we start thinking about okay, but how can I help other people? Maybe some other people have the situation which is worse than mine, and like even not thinking that like okay that's good for me, but like maybe I can do something. And when we start helping, it cheers us up and we feel a lot of meaning in our life, and it's an absolutely different situation. So you
Yeah.
see, like so starting from this information what we consume, because it
Mm.
forms what we think about. Also, same thing with people with who we interact. We could interact
Yeah.
with people who are talking some negative things, yeah, that everything's going to be bad, like they're complaining and stuff. And like, yeah, and
Yeah.
it doesn't go anywhere. It stays in our mind and it starts like interacting, disturbing our thoughts. And like, again, with all the cycle, yeah, reactions, actions, habits, lifestyle. So we
Wow.
need to be very careful with what kind of energies we interact on our daily basis.
Mm.
And this, it's very simple. We need to remove these negative things, and we need to bring more and more of positive things, those
Yeah.
things that give us inspiration, faith, and hope. And as I said, it could be different for everyone, but those marks are the most important: inspiration, faith, and hope.
I think what you're talking about, please correct me if I'm wrong, is if I can put it into another words, you're just talking about what you are aware of. Because like you mentioned that you see the news, you turn up the news and you see that prices are getting high and there's recession or somewhere there's depression. You are just becoming aware about it because that information has been loaded into your subconscious mind. However, if you start to be conscious and be more aware about the spiritual side, like you mentioned, how you can just you can read the holy books or spiritual books that can help you with your mental well-being. It can. So I think it's really important to be aware about the things that you are aware about, because most of the people don't even know the things that they are aware about. So where you are focusing your awareness is something that is really important in our lives. So wow, it was really wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Sasha.
And I absolutely agree. You are 100% correct. It is awareness. But as you said as well,
Mm-hmm.
lots of people, they just don't understand what is this awareness. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's really hard to explain. That's
Yeah.
why I bring very simple example and very doable step, which are kind of like, yeah, you just switch from one thing to another, so that
Yeah.
we start a new cycle that brings to a new lifestyle, like very practical thing, like very clear, certain practical example how you do it. Because sometimes like you just need to become aware, and they're like, okay, explain me how I become aware. Because I had such questions before as well, like, what do you
Yeah.
mean become aware, like how I can do it? And then you need to give like very certain things, like this is how. And
Wow,
like step by
that's
step, it's awareness comes, and then you start experiencing it, and then you don't need the explanation. You're just like, oh, oh no, it's just how I live.
wow, that's really amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sasha, for sharing your wisdom and insights with us today. It's been truly enlightening conversation. And I always say that with everything that comes our way, there's so much that we don't know about, and there's so much that we should learn about. And yeah, it's really an enlightening conversation. And to our listeners, I hope you found this episode as inspiring as I did. Remember, understanding the harmonizing with the moon's energy can lead to a greater inner peace and better health. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Let's continue this journey together towards inner peace and better health. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the wonders of the universe. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. See you in the next episode.